بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، ولي الصالحين، والعاقبة للمتقين، ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه. We praise Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, who has allowed us to come together to revise one of the pillars of Islam, which is Zakaat, a purification of the wealth and the inner self of a human being. Not only that is something that is a purification of his wealth, but likewise for his soul. As Shaykh Islam ibn Taymiyyah, he mentioned, تَزْكُو نَفْسُهُ وَمَالُهُ. His inner self and his soul becomes purified, and likewise his wealth. So inshallah, by the will of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, come together to learn some of what Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala has allowed us to come together for, which is how do we perform such pillar and such aspect of this deen, which is zakat, in our day of time. Starting with the brother, فَلْيَتَفَضَّلْ.
So the first guideline is defining what is zakat. Being the reason that zakat is a pillar of Islam, and abandoning it is with no doubt haram, and carrying it out is a way to enter the paradise. And to add that it is a means of purity for the heart of the Muslim and a purification for his wealth. Thereby the brother has quickly written the following guidelines and highlights pertaining to how does a Muslim whose zakat is obliged upon pay zakat by means of the modern day currency.
It would come clarifying how does a person know if zakat is obliged upon him or not, whether it's mandatory to pay or it becomes merely voluntarily for him to pay.
It consists of a selection of pointers, principles, and layouts from the statements of the senior scholars of our time, which are in fact easy guidelines on how to pay zakat through the modern day currency.
Before that, zakat, we find it in many of the verses of the Quran mentioned along with salat, showing the importance of it. That is mentioned in several verses along with salat. And also, zakat is something that many people look down at, and they see it as just something that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is taking from the wealth and giving it to the poor. La, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. Whatever you so provide and spend in the path of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will replace. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. And Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala is the best of providers. So what you put forward of zakat is only purifying your wealth and also your soul, and be a reason for you of light on the day of resurrection. فَالصَّدَقَةُ burhan. Sadaqah is a means of hujjah and proof for you on the day of resurrection. So there's many benefits of zakat. Not only that is a benefit to the poor, and it keeps the community in a good state, the society of the Muslims, but likewise is a benefit to one's family, his wealth, and it purifies what's needed to be purified from it. So zakat, they differed. When was it obliged? Before that, we say that zakat was found even in the time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. It was found in the prophets before. However, zakat, some scholars they differ. Was it made mandatory in Medina after the migration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or in Mecca? Some of the scholars, such as Al-Uthaymeen and others, they have mentioned that the correct opinion that it was made mandatory and obligatory in Mecca. However, the details of it was only mentioned in Medina after the migration of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So zakat has a lot of virtues to it, and also the one who does not fulfill it and pay it when it's obligatory upon him, then there's a great torment prepared for him. But we don't say like the prayer after one who abandons zakat, he's a disbeliever. But we say that Yawm al-Qiyamah, after being tormented and also put into the hellfire or being trialed, if Allah wills, he can be given a choice either to the hellfire or either to the paradise. They can come in the form of a cobra and saying, I'm your wealth that you did not put in zakat and you never used to pay it. It can be his treasure, and he used to be looking at it as savings that will save him, yet there was no salvation to him. So in general definition of zakat, what does it mean? Some of the scholars, they said the technical meaning of zakat, حق واجب في مال مخصوص لطائفة مخصوصة في وقت مخصوص. Yeah, the meaning of zakat, what does it mean? We say that is something obligatory from one's wealth, specific wealth from it, not every type of wealth. For a group of people or a cause that's specified by the deen of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala at a certain period. That's the meaning of zakat. If somebody was to ask you, what's the meaning of zakat? You can define it for him with this. Yarhamukumullah. This zakat is not like any other religions. We're going to come and mention that another religion, they request from one's yearly savings 10% of it. As for our deen, is a deen of ease and samaha. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala only requests from the person to give 2.5% of it, which we're going to come. Tafadhal, continue.
So the brother has made an effort to make it very simple and basic so all will be able to comprehend it and eventually be able to put it into practice by the will of Allah. So with no further delay, let us begin by the aid of Allah the Most High with the first guideline. So zakat in the Islamic legislation has an expansive and large meaning. However, what we wish to discuss from it in this short article of ours is the most frequent question that is commonly raised by the general mass of the Muslims concerning the zakat of gold and silver, which is how does one pay zakat by the means of modern day currency. Firstly, zakat of gold and silver is a legislated amount from one's wealth which is mandatory to be given in charity annually according to the lunar calendar, such as the Arab Hijri calendar.
Why do we say the lunar calendar? Because Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْأَهِلَّةِ قُلْ هِيَ مَوَاقِيتُ لِلنَّاسِ وَالْحَجِّ. They ask you regarding the lunar system, the whole calendar of it. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, say it is a time span for the people where they estimate and calculate their acts of worship therein. So that is what we do. Although a person can do solar and make it 365 days or 366 days, and then you can add 11 days or 12 days to it. And we're going to mention that if he does so, there's a certain percentage to that he will change. Hold on.
This is being if the set conditions of zakat which are found in the Quran and Sunnah have fully been met. Secondly, zakat should only be given to one of the following groups of people mentioned in Surah Tawbah, ayah 60. The ayah mentioned is the incorrect ayah, but the correct one is إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ فَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ. As-sadaqah, here it means zakat, are only for the fuqara, the poor, and the al-masakin, the needy.
The poor, the fuqara here, the reason why Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala began with the fuqara, because they're the most needy of them, of these groups. And also, so the best way to disperse your zakat is beginning with the fuqara, if possible.
And al-masakin, the needy.
The needy here, they differed. The levels, you can read the bracket if there is.
And those employed to collect the funds.
So the masakin are those who have something yet, but it's not sufficient for their expenses and their needs. Why is that? Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala mentions in Surah Al-Kahf, relating to the masakin. وَأَمَّا السَّفِينَةُ فَكَانَتْ لِمَسَاكِينَ يَعْمَلُونَ فِي الْبَحْرِ. As for the safina, the ship, it was for the masakin. They had a ship, yet they referred to as being miskin. So some of the scholars took from this that it means that they have something, yet is not sufficient for them. So he's not known in the mass of the people that he is poor and he's needy. So for that reason, zakat will be given to him.
And to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined towards Islam, and to free the captives, and for those in debt, and for Allah's cause, which are the mujahideen, those fighting in a holy battle or helping a person to go for Hajj.
We'll explain this at the end of it, inshallah, each one, inshallah.
And for the wayfarer, a traveler who is cut off from everything, a duty imposed by Allah, and Allah is all-knowing, all-wise.
Even though he can be rich at his own town, but once he's in another town, he lost way of getting back, and he has no wealth to get back, or he lost any contact of his family. Here, zakat will be given to him. Zakat will be given to him.
Thirdly, zakat of gold and silver or of modern day currency is only mandatory if such wealth is under one's ownership and possession for a period of 1 full year. Or in other words, his annual savings according to the Islamic calendar, contrary to the wealth which is spent within the year or used for paying costs, payments, and debts.
So the liabilities and all those other stuff, you won't consider it from his zakat. You won't consider it from his zakat.
A side note, concerning his savings, it doesn't make a difference whether the person intends by his savings that once he saves to a certain amount of money to purchase a house, for example, or a vehicle, or to save generally without specifying a certain cause, being the reason the criterion in his ownership and his possession of it for a period of 1 whole year.
So as long as it's something with him for this period of time, and he's not using it for wealth to be paid for a certain cause or spent, as someone may just spend wealth, even though he intends later on to use this wealth to buy a vehicle or a house, here it's upon him to pay zakat. Because we all, when we save money, we eventually intend to do something with it.
The second guideline, how does a person find out the nisab, which is a certain amount of wealth which determines if zakat is compulsory upon the person to pay or not? Generally, the scholars have differed regarding if one should use the set measurement of gold or the set measurements of silver to pay zakat through modern day currency. Whereas some scholars have said that they should use the highest of the two to determine the nisab, and some have mentioned rather the lowest of the two, and some have said whatever is more of benefit to the poor and needy.
So there's a great difference of opinion between the scholars regarding this particular matter. Some have said whatever is a benefit to the poor, due to the silver and gold at certain places may be different in the price of it. Like for example, in our time, silver, as if it has no price to it in comparison to gold. So they said, here a person may use silver to be a broad benefit for the poor.
In all cases, one has a choice of one of the two, while majority of the scholars in our time suggest that he use the set measurement of silver to calculate the nisab in his own town, being the reason it is commonly the easiest of the two and more of a benefit to the poor. The set measurement of gold is 20 mitqal, which is an ancient measurement for gold, originally based upon the measurement and weight of a sack of 72 seeds of barley.
So the hadith of that, it comes in Athar, on Ali ibn Abi Talib, Sunan Abi Dawud, 20 dinara. And the meaning of 20 dinar is also 20 mithqal, we mentioned. So for that reason, we took it from the Sunnah, even though some scholars say this narration of Ali ibn Abi Talib is from his statement. It's not from the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. However, it was not a statement of his own opinion, but rather he took it from the Prophet ﷺ.
Many of the scholars of today have mentioned that its equivalent amount according to modern day measurement is 85 grams of pure gold, while some have said its equivalent amount is 92 grams, which is more accurate.
This is for if it's pure gold. But if it has some copper to it, whereas if you calculate it, they say you should calculate it to be 95 or 99 grams of gold. If it's mixed with something that when you're wearing it has an extra seal to it, then you will add to it 99, or meaning you will add from the 85, another amount will be equivalent to altogether 99 grams. Then you would base it upon that.
92 grams, which is more accurate according to the legal verdict of Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah. However, to be cautious, one may use the measurement of 85 grams.
So there's even some who even say 84, but that opinion is rare. Some say 85, some say 92. But to be on the safe side, a person does 85 and he gets most of the opinions, if not all.
The set measurement of silver is 200 dirham of the dirham of the past, or in other words, the measurement of 140 mithqal, which has been calculated to be equivalent to 595 grams of pure silver of modern day weight of grams. To determine the exact amount of the nisab in one's town, he should multiply the set measurement of gold.
If a person is dealing with an ounce, then you can find out what's equivalent for that exact measurement from gram to ounce, and then he can estimate it from there. Whatever is easy for him, as long as it's the same measurement.
To determine the exact amount of the nisab in one's town, he should multiply the set measurement of gold, in this case it's 85 grams, to the price for a gram of gold in his town, and for silver, by multiplying the set measurement of silver of 595 grams to the price of a gram of silver in his town if available.
We say if available, because from one place to another, they may not have a price for a gram. So a person is forced to take the measurement of gold in this scenario. The measurement of gold. And that's the opinion of Al-Albani and others, that person, due to not be able to find the actual measurement of silver in many places, he just sticks to gold. Also, before that, these guidelines, they're from a group of our scholars of our time, starting with Ibn Baz, starting with Al-Uthaymeen, and also with Al-Albani, even though there was not many verdicts transcribed, but some of what's mentioned in some of the books. And likewise, Imam Muqbil and other scholars who are alive now benefited from them. So this is not of my works, it's just something that we benefited from those before us, of the scholars.
So an example of gold is if the price of a gram of gold is $10, so you do 85 grams of gold, multiply that by $10, you'll get 850. So here in this example, the nisab, which will determine if zakat is mandatory to pay or not, will be $850. So whoever has this amount or more for a period of 1 full year is obliged to pay the zakat.
Some people misunderstand. They think that nisab is that what you give in zakat. Is that what you give? So they end up here, taking this example, and paying how much? $850. That's incorrect. This is just something to determine if zakat is wajib upon you or not.
So that was for gold. And for silver, if the price for a gram of silver is $5, so you'll do 595 grams of silver, multiply that by 5, and you'll get $2,950. So here in this example, the nisab, that which will determine if zakat is mandatory to pay or not, will be $2,950. So whoever possesses this amount or more for a period of 1 full year is obliged to pay that. Is obliged to pay the zakat.
So this is just a mere example. We're going to give something that you can relate to for the Canadian dollars, and also the price of a gram of gold in our time.
If a person possesses a mixture of gold and silver, then he should calculate the nisab for each one separately, while he should not combine between the two.
Why does he do separately? Because Allah Ta'ala has given a nisab for each one. So you can't just calculate all of them collectively and say, this is my zakat here. La. Person, he has to fulfill the guidelines of Allah Ta'ala by knowing each nisab, each amount has a set weight that you go by.
So this is contrary to if he possesses a mixture of different currencies, whether it be the US dollar or the British pound or the Saudi riyal or other than that, then he should calculate the nisab of it collectively.
So there's another matter. Some say modern day currency all goes back to gold eventually. But they say it all goes back to gold. So a person would use the nisab of gold for modern day currency. And they said that he wouldn't use silver. But in the correct opinion, one has a choice between the two. One has a choice between the two.
So the third guideline is how much from one's annual savings does a person give for zakat. According to the Islamic legislation, one is only obliged to pay in zakat 1/4 of 10, which is 2.5% of his yearly savings, or in other words, from every 10, then 0.25. So if you pay $10, 2.5% of that is 25 cents. And from every $20, 2.5% of that is 50 cents. And from every $40, 2.5% of that is $1, and so forth. In other religions, one is obliged to pay 10% of his yearly savings, so which shows that the religion of Islam is the religion of samaha, which is ease.
SubhanAllah, 10% of one's yearly savings. Shows you the religion of Islam is a beautiful religion.
There are a couple of ways of calculating the exact amount that one takes from his annual savings to pay in zakat. So the first way is in dividing one's yearly savings into 40, which will equal the amount one is obliged to pay in zakat from his wealth. An example is if you have 10,000 Canadian dollars, you divide that by 40, and you'll get $250. So here the person is obliged to only pay $250 Canadian dollars in zakat for that year. The second way is you can take that amount and say, for example, for 7,000 British pounds, you can multiply that by 2.5%, so you'll do 0.025, multiply that by 7,000, and you'll get 175 British pounds that you pay in zakat for that year. And the third way is you divide 10,000 Canadian dollars, you divide that by 10, and then you divide that again by 4. But it's also the same thing as if you divide 10,000 by 40, it just breaks it down.
So different calculations, they're all easy, made easy for you. So what if someone's paying for those extra 11 days? He's going to, instead of 354 days, which is the lunar calendar, he's going to add another 11 days to it. How much he's going to give extra? He's going to multiply 2.5% to how much? 354 divide 365, and now what you get out of it is a percentage which you're going to multiply it to your yearly savings. So the extra amount, whether it be any small decimal amount, you're going to times it and multiply it to your yearly savings, and then you will have the 11 days extra.
A side note, it is permissible to pay one's zakat of his estimated yearly savings prior to the end of a completed full year, as long as he is quite sure that he will possess the value of the nisab of his town for one whole year. The fourth guideline, how to put the aforementioned rules into practice. Depending on where one is residing and located, his or her nisab and zakat will differ from one place to another. So due to that, one should calculate and estimate the nisab of his town according to the average and current price for a gram of gold, and likewise for a gram of silver.
Nowadays we have any websites that give a fixed amount for the nisab. For this year, nisab, this amount. And the amount that people will pay is this amount. This is not correct. It could be any differ, the price of a gram of gold from one place to another. Also, some of them may say, we'll start calculating from the month of Ramadan. So next month of Ramadan, everybody comes and they give their zakat at Ramadan. Say, what about all the poor in the month of Shawwal, the month of Rajab, the other months? Who's going to give it to them? That's why it's upon each person to give it according to his time and spread it about.
So just as the brother said, there are several websites which are specialized in calculating the price of a gram of gold or a gram of silver for each country and place. One may use such websites to find out the average and current price for a gram of gold in his or her town.
And it's not necessary they all have to be the same, just the average, the majority that you find, set prices, then you go for. So al-hukm lil-ghalib, the ruling takes for the majority.
So, for example, the current price for a gram of gold in Canada for the date of April 6th this year is $48.82. So, to find out the current value of the nisab for gold in Canada, you would multiply 48.825, multiply that by 85 grams of gold, which will equal the current nisab for gold in Canada, which will come up to $4,150.12. So whoever possesses that amount or more for a period of one whole lunar year is obliged to pay 2.5% of his total annual savings. So if his total savings of one complete year is $5,000, for example, then he will multiply that amount by 2.5% and he will get 125 Canadian dollars. Whereas he will give that amount in zakat for that year.
So if he wants to add to it the 11 days that we're speaking about, for example, he's doing the solar year. How much will he do? $5,000 times 2.57%. 2.57%. So any decimal 0.257, then the amount of your yearly savings, which is 5,000, then it will be equal to those extra 11 days included. Hold on.
So that was for gold. As for silver, then it will come up to be 0.68 cents per gram. So to find out the current value of the nisab for silver in Canada, you would multiply that amount, which is 0.68127, to 595 grams, which will equal the current nisab for silver in Canada, and this comes up to $405.35. So whoever possesses that amount or more for a period of one whole lunar year is obliged to pay 2.5% of his total annual savings. So if his total annual savings of one complete year is $6,000, for example, then he would multiply 6,000 by 2.5 and he'll get 150 Canadian dollars, whereas he will give that amount in zakat for that year. The starting date is set once your savings reaches the nisab limit. The ending date and due date is set as a year after the starting date.
And so a year after that, so once he has that amount, for example, it's $4,000 the nisab. The amount that he knows that it become wajib upon him to pay zakat. If he has $4,000, from that day he has it. If it goes on for a whole year, he still possesses it. Once the year's end, then is his due date of paying his zakat. His due date of paying his zakat.
When paying the zakat, one should also calculate along his annual savings any amount of wealth which the person has high hopes for and expecting and receiving, so much so as if he is quite certain that he will be receiving that amount.
Some add to that merchandises, if a person has some products for sale, he includes that. If he has vehicles for sale and all that, he will add that to his zakat, that's included. But the correct opinion, and that's not so, even though some scholars have quoted ijma', consensus upon that, but there's no ijma'. Some of the scholars of Zahiriyah also the narration ascribed to Uthman in opposition to that. So we say that there's no strong proof to show that, but if a person were to do so, for example, a third of his profit from his merchandise he's selling, he will give, including to his zakat and labas. That's extra benefit for him on the day of resurrection.
So side note, one should not consider from his wealth any jewelry of diamonds, pearls, platinum. Rather, he should only consider what is pure gold and pure silver, whether it be worn or set aside as a treasure.
So if, for example, one's wife has gold that she's wearing, even though she's wearing it, if it goes for a period of one whole year, she still has to pay zakat of it. And also if it's a treasure, وَالَّذِينَ يَكْنِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يَنْفِقُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ فَبَشِّرْهُم بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Those who keep treasure of gold and silver, and they don't spend it in the path of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, فَبَشِّرْهُم بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Give them glad tidings of a painful torment.
Also, it is encouraged that each person carries out the task of distributing his or her own zakat directly to the poor or the needy.
So another matter, if a person were to miss out years, he didn't pay zakat, does it just drop upon him? He doesn't have to pay it anymore? No, he still has to pay it. For example, if you had years that you knew that you had the amount of zakat, and you didn't pay that 2.5% of it, is upon you to pay it later on when you get that amount. And the sooner the better, because you never know, death can come to you while you haven't paid it. And this is the haqqul miskeen. Yani haqqul sa'il. Yani the person who's asking, also the miskeen. This is their rights. And you cannot fall short regarding their rights and say, I was ignorant at that time. La, it's upon you to fulfill the rights once you become aware of the ruling. So another issue relating to that is the matter of the debt. If a person has money that he owes a person, and he knows that this wealth is not going to be in his possession anytime soon, or it's going to depart from him, and it belongs to someone else, has liabilities, then here he won't calculate it. He'll not calculate it. But if someone owes him money, and as if he can get that money any time, or he has high hopes of achieving that wealth from that person at a certain time, then he will calculate it along with his wealth. It's as if it's in his pocket. So we don't mean by savings what it is in your bank called the savings, and whatever in the checkings is just the checkings. La. We mean by savings whatever wealth you have mentioned of what we didn't made an exception from, then now you will calculate it. Also another matter, the majnoon and the saghir, a person who has lost his mind and he has wealth. This person, if a year goes over, a year goes over the wealth that he has and is over nisab, he still has to pay the zakat, even though he's majnoon. So the people who are in charge and taking care of him, they will do zakat on his behalf. Likewise, the child, if a child has wealth, over the nisab and a year goes over, likewise requested for him to pay. Paying the zakat, how does one go about in paying it? The best way, as Al-Uthaymin I mentioned said, if a person knows who to be able to identify between the poor and the miskeen and his ways of distributing the wealth, then he should do it himself. Amma إذا كان لا يحسنه, that's why he's not aware. He ends up giving the wealth to zakat to some person who doesn't even deserve it. This is not correct. It is upon him to give his wealth to someone that will fulfill it. So for example, he knows an imam of the masjid or a person who's well known in the community to fulfill being delegated to distribute the zakat, and he's trusted with it. He has to be trusted. Not someone that you give his wealth, later on you find on the news that this person has been eating people's wealth. La. Or he's using the zakat for other than what zakat is supposed to be distributed for. So someone who's you can entrust him with zakat. So he has to be amin. He has to be amin. Also, we mentioned 200 dirham of the past for the silver measurement. The proof for that is the hadith of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. Khamsatu awaq. And he said khamsatu awaq, 5 awaq is equivalent to 200 dirham of the past. And that 200 dirham of the past is equivalent to 595 grams, even though some say 613. But it's safer to be 595, and whatever is extra is sadaqah. Whatever is extra, sadaqah for you, inshallah. طيب, continue reading, inshallah.
It is not permissible to give one zakat to build a mosque with it or to help pay some of the expenses of the mosque or Islamic school. But rather that it can be given.
This is opinion. It's not like opinion of one scholar or two scholars. Sheikh Ibn Baz mentioned that this is as if it's a consensus, a ijma' of the scholars of the past. A person does not give the zakat to just build a masjid with, or do so with that. He can give sadaqah of other sadaqah that he has. If he wants to build a mosque, he gives a sadaqah. He intends a sadaqah. But he doesn't intend by it zakat of what we're speaking regarding here. He just intends it sadaqah. And he's encouraged to build the masajid of Allah Ta'ala. طيب, another matter, if a person were to give in sadaqah, so much of money of sadaqah, is it upon him to pay zakat now? He has so much sadaqah someone has given him. He was poor, now he became rich. La. Because now this amount that he's given to him is only to fulfill his needs. To get a house, to get established. This type of person is not required upon him to pay zakat. Well done.
Rather, it can be given through the means of general charity. As for zakat, then it can only be given to the one of the 8 categories mentioned in Surah Tawbah, verse number 16. All the above is a mere overview of how to pay zakat through modern day currency, which may require a further explanation.
So go back to the verse of Surah Tawbah.
So
one by one, inshallah.
So should I read it?
No.
So verse 60 of Surah Tawbah, إنما الصدقات للفقراء.
طيب, sadaqat here, as mentioned in a lot of the Quran, sadaqah comes with a meaning as zakat in a lot of the verses of the Quran. خذ من أموالهم صدقة تزكيهم بها تطهرهم بها وتطهرهم وتزكيهم بها وصلي عليهم إن صلاتك سكن لهم. That verily take from them sadaqah, from their wealth, as a form of purity, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions as an increasement. Zakat meaning of zakah, nama, increasement of one's wealth. Ma naqasat sadaqa min mal. Sadaqah does not decrease one's wealth. Whatever you give for Allah's sake, it only increase. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala yurbi sadaqat, He increases it.
And al-masakin wal-'amilina 'alayha.
So the faqir, a person, he's poor, and we know this, that a person, he's poor to the people, he's referred to the customs of the people as being poor. This type of person right away you give to him. As for masakin, we mentioned he has something. He may even be living in a house, he may even have a ship, as we mentioned in the verse in Surah Al-Kahf. But yet, according to his family needs and his expenses, it's not sufficient for him. So this type of person, you give him zakat. But as for a person, he's qawi wa sawi, yani a person, he's strong and healthy, he can go out and work, but he's just being lazy. This type of person, you don't give zakat. You tell him go and work and give what is upon you to give from your wealth for your family.
وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ, and to attract the heart.
وَالْمُؤَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبُهُمْ, the mu'allafa, it divides in many categories. A person that, what's the translation?
And to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined towards Islam.
So whether a person, he's not Muslim, and you hope that by giving him this wealth that he will accept Islam. So here, a person who's such an imam in the community, or the rulers of Muslims, on his ijtihad, or someone who's high level, you can see that with this wealth, people will accept Islam and embrace Islam, then here he'll give it. Or a person, he's weak in iman, and they fear by him not accepting Islam, he may even decrease in iman. So here, a person may give him some of the zakat to make him stronger in iman. And some of the scholars have mentioned this is for the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when Islam was strong. When Islam was strong, that they were able to do so, and people would accept Islam. But in our time, you give a person money, zakat, you make it look like he's going to accept Islam, next day he leaves. So someone said this is confined. Allah knows best. This is a general ruling. Also another one is if a person gives wealth of a tribe that he knows if he gives wealth to a certain tribe, this tribe will prevent harm from coming to the Muslims or a certain country. Here, a Muslim ruler can do so. Told him.
And to free the captives and for those in debt.
So the captives, the person you want to free and manumit of a slave. This is before, and the last time we heard of it was in Mauritania, and even that wasn't even full ownership and full slavery. It was more like a maid in certain places. So, but that's a person will not manumit, and so there's not this ruling. A person just hopes, the reward that if there was a Muslim that was a slave, and he did have the wealth with his intention that he would manumit for the foremost people to save the Muslims, with his intention, inshallah.
And for Allah's cause, for the mujahideen, those fighting in a holy battle or helping a person to go for Hajj.
Prior to that, if a person was a slave, there's no zakat upon him, because the slave, his wealth belongs to who? His owner. It belongs to his owner. As for the other one, fi sabilillah, Sheikh Mu'min and some of the scholars, they said, and also Fawzan, many people have stretched out this meaning of fi sabilillah. Everything you do now, fi sabilillah, bismillah, zakat. La, fi sabilillah is come in the Quran and Sunnah explained as uzat, those who are in the battlefield and those who are been sent by the ruler for a holy jihad, they'll be given, even if they're rich, even if they're aghniya, you give it to them. And also another hadith relating to Hajj, aiding a person in Hajj and so forth. This is also referred to fi sabilillah. The scholars said, as we're using this word fi sabilillah and just building mosques and so forth, and this is not correct. Our understanding of the Quran and Sunnah has to be in accordance to the understanding of the Salaf al-Salih. Our understanding of the Quran and Sunnah has to be in accordance to the Salaf al-Salih. We can't just take a word and say, Bismillah, we understand upon this. As for a talib al-ilm, a person seeking knowledge, some have said if he's preoccupied from working due to him seeking knowledge and he's in need, him and his family, then here he may be given zakat under the banner of he's from the needy, the masakeen. And also a person gets the reward of helping such people. So that's some opinion of some of the scholars.
وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ, and for the wayfarer.
So the one just coming through, he goes from one village to another, and while he's going, in this village there's no hotels to stop off. He doesn't know anyone there. He lost his contacts. He doesn't have enough wealth to get him by. Here, the people in that town, if they have zakat, they will give it to him. Even though he may be the richest person in his village, but in that town he's from the poorest of the people. So you give him zakat. And even they say it's wajib in that scenario to host him of diyafa. That a person hosts such a person and gives him food. So the first night is obligatory.
فَرِيضَةً مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَاللَّهُ عَلِيمٌ حَكِيمٌ.
So it clarifies this sadaqat at the beginning we mentioned is zakat. It's intended here zakat. Fariḍah, it's an obligation from Allah. Wallahu alimun hakim. All of this is by the ilm of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. His knowledge is perfected. And also with wisdom. Hakim. So knowledge with wisdom. For perfection. It's a blessing to see how Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala mentions His names along with other names. So another matter, can we give zakat to a Hashimi, person from Ahl Bayt, from the family of the Prophet ﷺ? The scholars said no. But what about a person from giving his zakat and he's from the family of the Prophet to another person who's from the family of the Prophet? Some of the scholars see so, such as Shaykh Islam Taymiyyah. They said here, they coincide with one another. Labas, they can give it to each other. But the correct opinion is that is not allowed. So the family of the Prophet ﷺ have been elevated from accepting the wealth of the zakat. So people, they purify the wealth with such wealth, so it's not befitting for the family's prophet to take the wealth. Something special for the Prophet ﷺ family. The one al-gharimin, did we take that? And those employed, repeat that.
And to free the captives and for those in
the
debt.
Masakin, after the Masakin. And those employed?
and for those in debt.
So, العاملون also الغارمون تفضل عن those, so.
And for Allah.
And those employed to collect the funds.
And those employed to collect the funds and to attract the hearts of those who have been
So those who are employed to collect the funds. Who are they? They refer to as jubah in Arabic language. And some of the scholars say, well, the majority of them, they say this is confined to the ruler or those who are in the position of the Muslim ruler. That they, when they're sending a certain group of people to collect the zakat from the people, those people who are doing so, even though they may be rich, they are allowed to obtain a small percentage of the zakat. But as for a person, he's not been delegated by the Muslim ruler or someone who's in that position, then some of the scholars say it's not befitting for him to take it. Some of the scholars, but al-fatwa for Sheikh Muqbil, he says it's allowed if he takes according to what muqabil ta'abi, according to what took place of his difficulties where he's preoccupied from working, just being busy with that. So some say that is okay, but the correct opinion, he won't do so, and he'll leave it to being delegated. Because in our time, people have open that door. You give someone zakat, all of a sudden he puts it in his pocket, he goes, وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا. And he goes to the closest restaurant and Bismillah. He eats. It's not correct. He said, this verse applies to me. I'm collecting the zakat. Tayyib, you're going to collect the zakat to go to the restaurant with it? This is the zakat that you're collecting? And they expand the meaning of this verse. And now in our time, many people are driving the best of cars upon people's zakat. And when you ask them, they say, well, عَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا. No. Even if it was so, you take a small percentage according to the ta'ab that you went through. Not to be extravagant and all what they're doing now. Allah Musta'an. والغارمين
وفي سبيل الله وابن السبيل.
طيب in the English, and for those in,
and to attract the hearts of those who have been inclined towards Islam, and to free the captives, and for those in debt, and for Allah's cause.
طيب, for those in debt, what does that mean? A person he built a house for him and his family. He borrowed a big amount of money, and now all of a sudden he's saying, now I'm in debt, so I deserve the zakat. And he built the biggest of houses. They said this divides of three people. The first one, a person has afflicted him a great affliction. For example, his house burnt down. Person's house burnt down. Or his car was destroyed. Or something that great calamity that affected his whole wealth status. Here, they be given some of the zakat. Or a person, he rectified and reconciled between two groups of people by putting money down. Even though he's a rich person, but that money that he put down, Islam will give him back to him by zakat. Because he done something that's great in Islam. He rectified between two people, so he put money down and he united the people. The third one is a person, he's striving to the benefits of his family and he's struggling. He's struggling severely. And he has so many debts. رَكِبَتْهُ في غير فساد. He's overwhelmed with debts. And not due to him being extravagant and excessive with his wealth, but really him struggling and finding severity in his wealth. This type of person you give him. As for the person, he's every day buying something new, so he's in debt. He's extravagant with his wealth and excessive. Doesn't know how to use his wealth, and later on he says, I need some of the zakat because I have a lot of debts. This type of person, you will give it to him. This type of person, you will not give it to him. This is a short overview of zakat, some of it. Or else there's many aspects of zakat related to the cattle of the sheep, camel, and also the cow, and relating to the zira'ah, plantation, and what comes out from the earth, and how much would you give. There's other rulings to that, and other masail, but this is a general overview of it. When you give a zakat, would you give it to the people in your town or to a different country? We find now in our time people, they send a zakat, for example, to Africa or Tanzania or other countries. From the angle that if it's permissible or not, it's permissible. It's permissible to send you zakat because as long as he fits in one of these categories. But they say it's more preferable that it be given to the people and the place that you're in, تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ وَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. Prophet ﷺ said the wealth is to be taken from the rich of them in that town and to return to the poor of them amongst them. So it should be returned back to the people in that town. So we should return back to the people in the town. We suffice to with a short amount. We ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to bring benefits by it. Any questions, inshallah?
What if someone already gave, like someone gave in the masjid, they said you can give zakat that you didn't know, and people gave the money already, that zakat to the masjid?
لا بأس. لك ما نويت يا معن. Comes in hadith, for you is what you intended, O Sahabi معن. So first then he intended something, لا بأس. إنما الأعمال بالنية. The 20, we said 20 dinar. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they had even the choice of 20 dinar or 5 awaq, one of those. So they both had a choice. So being that they had a choice in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, likewise they have a choice in our time, due to it being available in some places.
Also, what if within your family, like immediate cousins and stuff, what if they're like struggling very badly?
This is another matter. If it's from family members that is wajib upon you to spend and give them wealth and provide for them, some of the scholars say you should avoid giving them zakat. And some have made exception, the wife, because it comes from a hadith. But to be on the safe side, a person will try to avoid giving his zakat to some of his family members that he is wajib to provide for. For example, a father for his son, because it's going back to him. Because the son, whatever his wealth that he has, is actually for his father, in general. So whatever that is wajib upon you to give to a certain person of wealth, then you will not give him the zakat. Hold on.
So when is it considered like a failure to pay zakat?
The time limit or the?
Yeah, the time limit.
For example, one whole year from the time period. For example, we started in September. For example, next September, if we add in the next 11 days, or we just subtract it, that next time that comes is wajib upon me to pay the zakat. And it's not permissible for me to delay it if I'm capable of paying at that moment. So I would strive to give it to those who are needed from these 8 categories. And you calculate it at that time, what is 2.5% of it, of your annual savings, and you add to it all the other wealth that you may have from what we mentioned. Hold on. This is a person who, either he's deserving of zakat. Person who's deserving of zakat, then this other person is not upon him to pay zakat. He is upon him to be given, not to give. Hold on.
What about the relative that's not wajib for you to give it to? Do they have more rights?
They have more rights. Prophet ﷺ said to one of the Sahabas, أَن تَجْعَلَهَا فِي الْأَقْرَبِينَ, that you give it. This means a charity to your family ties. So that's from the best of sadaqah. Not only is keeping ties with the family, but likewise you get the reward of sadaqah. Tafaddal.
Does that include everybody outside your immediate family?
Anyone that's close to you, have ties to you in some way, whether it be your cousins or whether it be even if it may be someone that's through marriage, the closer the person is, the better the sadaqah, because you're keeping ties with them. But if he's someone that you have to provide for, then it's not preferable to give it to zakat. Tafadhal.
Do women have to pay zakat?
No, women likewise. Even some of the scholars said even the children who have wealth have zakat. Tafadhal.
So just to this point, it's an extended family member and they're back home. What happens then?
If they're extended family member
And they're back home.
and they're back labas, you can give it to them. But it's preferable to give it to the family members here and those who are in need, from who fit one of these 8 categories, the poor and the needy, of the people in the town. Why is that? Because we use the hadith, تُؤْخَذْ مِنْ أَغْنِيَائِهِمْ وَتُرَدُّ عَلَى فُقَرَائِهِمْ. The wealth is taken from the rich of them and returned back to who? The poor amongst them. So if you go to another country, even though it's permissible, but you're missing out on what's intended by the hadith. I think we have a lot of hands. Tafadhal.
How about big organizations like not Islamic relief?
If it's the organizations that are trusted and delegated to give zakat to their people, then la bas, you can give it to them. But it's more preferable that a person, and he gives his zakat directly to one of these people that he knows that he's deserving for zakat. If you carrying out this task, is a greater reward. But sometimes some of these organizations, they've been caught for different scams, and also mixing sadaqat with zakat, and mixing this and that, and not calculating everything correctly, either maybe due to wrong, correct intention, sometimes accidentally, and some of them with different intentions. We ask Allah to rectify us all. These type of people, you try to avoid giving to them. If you fear that, if you know that is also al-asl fil muslimin salama. The origin regarding the Muslimin, salama, that they're free from such criminal acts.
When you're giving the zakat to the person, do you have to tell them that this is zakat?
Shaykh Mubin says preferable not to mention that this is zakat in order that the person doesn't get hurt by his feelings that he's someone that's so low that he has to be given zakat. You just give him as a gift or as sadaqah without mentioning as zakat. The main thing is that you intend by it zakat with your intention. إنما الأعمال بالنية. So Shaykh Mubin mentioned his fatawa, حتى لا تكثر نفسه, you don't put him down by saying this is zakat for you. So you just say it to him, this is some sadaqah that we want to pass through, or of those words that are gentle. Tafadhal.
Regarding the zakat for the adornment, did you say that there was a difference of opinion, or did you say that they have to pay the...
Afwan, repeat the question again? Sorry.
Regarding the adornment for the silver and gold, adornment?
For jewelry.
Jewelry, yeah. Anything that's not pure gold and silver, it's mixed with those two. These scenarios, you won't give zakat of it. But if a person were to give zakat of it extra from his own self, then la bas, he gets rewarded for it. So platinum or jewelry of diamonds and all these stuff, anything that's besides gold and silver, then he won't give zakat for. Why is that? Because it comes in the hadith related to dhahab al-fidda only.
What did you say? If it's mixed, a lot of gold is mixed these days, right? Other metals to make it strong.
So they say that you calculate it to 99 grams. Instead of 85, you calculate to 99. Usually the extra weight. And they said you ask each specialist of them, what is the extra amount upon. So you calculate the extra amount and then you add to it. For example, the extra amount is 15 grams extra. So what are you going to do? You're going to add the 15 to the 85. Then you will multiply it. So in some places they add the copper. So the amount comes up to altogether 99. So then you will calculate.
So you know the nisab will be like much lower for silver than for gold. So the person allowed to just choose just say he chooses the gold.
You choose what is more of a benefit to the masakeen, inshallah. Even though he has a choice. And the reason that Allah Tabarak Ta'ala has given a choice is people that are who race to good. But a long term it goes back to the same amount given to the poor, inshallah. Hold on.
We live in Canada, so give it to non-Muslims?
The non-Muslims, we won't give them zakat unless they be from those who we just mentioned, of مؤلفة قلوبهم, in that state. Even though some scholars say that is only before. تفضل عبد العزيز.
So like, let's say a man is married to like his wife or whatever, and he's poor, but his wife has money. Could she give him zakat?
Naam, this is a fatwa that Shaykh Mubin made exception for. But the wife gives zakat to the husband if he is poor. And even though the majority of the scholars do not see that, because they said it's initially wajib upon the husband, so it's not upon him to accept zakat. But because the wife is not wajib upon her to give nafaqah, to provide financially for the husband, here it's allowed. Here it's allowed. تفضل علي.
Paying the jewelry, is it every year? They have it, or is it just one time?
And once for a whole 1 year. So for example, once you pay for the calculation of 1 whole year, the next year you'll calculate it. And you won't calculate the same, you'll calculate each year according to the price of the gold of that year, inshallah. تفضل.
So what if like a man pays for his wife's zakat?
The opposite. A man pays for his wife's zakat, or he pays for on her behalf. No, that's as long as his zakat is being paid. As long as the zakat is being paid. But it's preferable each person carries out the task on his own.
So the husband doesn't have to pay. What if the wife has jewelry and then she has to remove it and she doesn't go to work? She doesn't have any other income. Does she remove it from her jewelry?
No, even if it's jewelry that she wears of gold, if a year goes by, she calculates it and she pays the zakat, even if she wears it. Or even if she puts it aside, one or the other, on the correct opinion.
But it's not obligated on the husband to pay it.
No. It's only on the wife, according to the amount that she has of jewelry. Fadal. Fadal.
So once the money we have, from then on, the 1 year starts counting? When do we start counting?
So once you pay of that year, we mentioned that the due time and the end time. The end time starts for this next nisab that you may have of that wealth, if you do have it. So for example, once you give that wealth, you calculate what you may have left of your savings from that on. If you have the amount of nisab, to start again another year.
Also, what if you have a loan on you? Like if you owe someone money?
If this loan that you owe of a person, it's as if it's in your possession, and for example you have a great amount of it to benefit for a long period of time, then you calculate along with it. If not, then it belongs to someone else and is not in your possession anymore.
Some people say they'll pay 3% of their yearly savings, because just in case, like, it's actually a bit more than 2.5%. So what do you like?
Labas. And a person, if he wants to do extra from the angle of sadaqah, labas. But to be cautious, this is قد يكون ورع بارد. Cautiousness and other than its place. It's 2.5%. It's واضح. If a person is going to do 11 days extra, then he'll add what we mentioned earlier. As for adding more, then he should not intend zakat. He just will add the extra sadaqah. Give it to a mosque or something. Fadal.
The one who doesn't pay zakat, what's his rule? He has it, he doesn't pay.
That he fell into كبائر الذنوب, the major sins. يعني الذي لم يؤدي زكاته, will come to him on the day of resurrection as well. He'll say أنا كنزك أنا مالك, come in a form of a crowbar or a big evil snake. Coming to him, and he'll be tormented by it on the day of resurrection, if Allah Tabarak Ta'ala does not pardon him. And then later on it'll be يخير سبيله إما إلى الجنة وإما إلى النار. Either be his way to the hellfire, be given a choice, or to the hellfire. Meaning, if Allah Tabarak Ta'ala does not pardon him, he may be tormented and trialed within the hellfire. وَيَعَذُ بِاللَّهِ. So it's one of the greatest of sins. And it's a reason of talaf al-mal. That the one who holds back with his wealth, don't think that your wealth is going to increase. It's only going to be a total disaster to your wealth, whether it be sooner or later. Hold on. Zakat al-Fitr, that's something else. That's Zakat al-Fitr, and that requires another day, inshallah. hold on.
Let's say for the economic situation of people, they can make savings. But they do not have savings because they spend a lot of money.
So
does that still wajib?
If a person, he has money for liabilities and spendings, then this is not actually savings. It's not even going to come a whole year that he has it for. He's going to keep spending, and then money comes in and money comes out. This is not actually something that he's putting aside as kanzun, like a treasure. Hold on. It's not to put it aside, it means just wealth that you have for a possession for a whole year. As for wealth that you're spending and then it comes back, then it's not included. Hold on.
So how would you calculate when you have cash and gold, and the gold is actually less than the amount you're supposed to give? Do you include that with the amount of cash?
Now the cash, whether it be any type of currency, will be included with the gold and silver that you have. Be included. So you calculate how much is this gold, equivalent amount. And then later on you calculate how much money you have and you put it together and see if it fits the nisab. And you do the nisab of gold if you have gold, and you do the nisab of silver if you're doing silver.
Regarding age, there's no age limit. If once the kid, whoever has that much amount of money, then
No, because the ahkam is wad'iyya, it relates to the wealth. It doesn't relate to taklif, the person. It's not relating to if the person is held responsible for this wealth or not. La. It's relating to this wealth is haqqul masakin. It belongs to the needy of them. تفضل. Zakat has a linguistic meaning and a technical meaning. The linguistic meaning, nama wa ziyada, an increasement and also addition. So it only increases your wealth, zakat. And also it means purification. Linguistically and technically it means haqqun wajib. It's something that's obliged and mandatory from a specific wealth that a person has for a certain cause, specific group of people, or a certain cause at a certain time. That is zakat. Hold on.
Can I use my example? I just have one bank account and I do my day-to-day transactions onto that, like for the house, grocery, everything. So there's, how do I determine the savings? Because when it comes to 12 months, I might not have.
You will look at it and you say, for example, if I have over the nisab, for example, nisab is 4,000, for example. You look and you say, did I have over, for a period of one whole year, 5,000? If so, that's the amount, you will calculate it according to your zakat. So whatever you have when you're paying your zakat, you calculate all together, collectively, and you give your zakat of it. That is wealth that you know that you had for a possession with you for one whole year. Now, for example, a person, he has 800, then it becomes 400. Then it goes back to 800, and then he's going to calculate it that I did have 800. It went up and down. Or he spends it for something, or he's using it for a certain bill. This is not was included. طيب, inshallah, I think time has come up. Any more last questions, inshallah? تفضل علي.
What if you don't know the exact time you reach the nisab?
Then قرب, you try your best to find the close amount, where you closest. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah doesn't bear a soul over his capacity. طيب, إن شاء الله. بارك الله فيكم. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. We ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to make us sincere and make this a benefit for us on the day of resurrection. Wallahu ta'ala alam wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.